I feel like I could start a new podcast that's just every week me talking about the Power of Three. It's just it would run for a year, and it's just every week I would watch the Power of Three, and just talk about it to myself, and because I feel like I can never tire of saying mean things about that episode because it just upsets me.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
It would be my podcast would be called One Dimension to the Life.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I think you need to do this.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
Hi, this is Tom, butting in to warn you that the first 20 minutes or so of this episode are a discussion about the missing episode rumors which spread like wildfire around the Doctor Who fandom last week. But a couple of days after we recorded this episode, statements denying the rumors were put out by both BBC Worldwide and TIEA, the independent company allegedly involved in recovering these episodes, which you'd think would render our whole discussion kind of moot. However, several of the websites that claim to have reliable sources reporting a find have stated that their sources still indicate that a find has occurred, regardless of the denials. Either way, the discussion has been left intact here in this episode, just in case you were curious to know what exactly those rumors were in reference to, or what me and Louis thought about them. But if you have no interest in listening to that kind of thing, then just skip right ahead to about the 19-minute mark, which is where you'll hear our overview discussion of Doctor Who Series 7. Thank ya. I've been following this missing episode story very closely, by which I mean I've been, lurking in the Gallifrey Base forum thread about missing episodes for the past couple weeks. I don't know, I think it's actually looking pretty, I wouldn't want to say likely that some kind of find is happening, but it seems there is a better than zero chance that there is some truth to the talk about missing episodes.
That's interesting. Because, I had heard about this rumor, and I just kind of immediately dismissed it, thinking, well, that's too good to be true. And then I just immediately shoved it out of my mind and haven't really thought about it twice. But that's interesting, if there's actually some truth to it.
Well, and if you looked at Ian Levine's Twitter feed, then you may already know this, but the number I was quoting on my Twitter feed last week was 60, but the number that has now become the most commonly associated number with the rumor is 90.
Really?
Out of 106 missing episodes, the rumor is very specific in its current form about which episodes are missing.
Huh.
And yeah, apparently this rumor, I mean, I only really became aware of it in the past couple months because that's when I started really paying attention to the forums, because a couple of Doctor Who websites, I think in this case Doctor Who Online and Outpost Skaro, on their Twitter feeds, they started talking about, we've heard something, but we can't tell you what. But apparently this rumor goes back about 2 years.
Wow.
That somewhere in Africa, someone had come into Africa's a very big place, but somewhere in quote-unquote Africa,
right?
Someone has come into possession of a large store of what I hear is 8,000 film canisters. That's the version I keep hearing. Out of which most of it is BBC material and some of it is missing episodes of Doctor Who.
Huh.
The most tame version of this rumor that I've heard is that this is a bicycling hub, which means that when they were selling films overseas, what they used to do is bicycle them, and what this means is that, like, this country, instead of each country getting it and then sending it back to the BBC, one country would get it and they'd send it on to the next country, who'd send it on to the next country.
Ah.
But apparently the rumor is Africa had this hub that everything was like cleared through.
Ah.
And so the rumor is that someone found that. But the most outlandish version, and my personal favorite one, is that it's the private film collection of the Ugandan dictator Idi Amin.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, I'm all for that.
It seems like, people are talking about this. I don't know if it's real, but people are sure talking about it.
Well, yeah, that's really something. Well, yeah, because I was thinking, when you mentioned Africa, I kind of was like, well, was this started as an email from a Nigerian prince, or? But all right. So I mean, it certainly sounds plausible, which is the best kind of rumor. I don't know. That would be interesting.
The one thing that makes it especially plausible is that nobody in like an official capacity has denied it.
Ah, there you go.
It's even though it's kind of spread to a few, like not major news sources, but like internet news sources. Like I think Ain't It Cool News did something on it, and it even wound up on Anglophenia, which is a blog run by BBC America.
Ah.
So.
Very interesting.
I think there's a chance it could be real.
It could be. Well, and certainly it seems it's weird to talk about responsibility, but it almost seems, if this rumor is indeed completely false, it's almost irresponsible for the official people involved to not come forward and say, no, this isn't true. Just because it's, not that I'm saying that, fans' hopes need to be nurtured and not like falsely inflated or anything like that, but it would be nice to not upset fans by parading this or by just keeping quiet, knowing all along that it's not true. So it seems like it would be, I don't know, it would be if it is in fact not true and the BBC is just not saying anything, then I think that's like intentionally hurtful.
Yeah, there's also an aspect of apparently the reason this sort of came about in 2011 but has taken so long to get off the ground is that there were negotiations involved that were rather sensitive. And so one thing I have kept hearing on forums is like, if this goes public in a major way, then that could have an impact on the negotiations, because the other party might get ideas from that, like think that the material is more valuable than we're willing to pay for it or whatever. And one version I've heard is that whoever it is who had all these film canisters didn't want to just sell Doctor Who episodes back. They said take it all or take none of it. I have no idea whether that's true. It may be rumor or speculation, but I have no idea whether any of it's true. It may all be rumor and or speculation. But Ian Levine claims to have physical evidence in his hands.
Okay. Oh my god, I just don't even know what to say to that. Like, all right.
He claims to have what he refers to as 3 tons of physical evidence, but he also claims that this evidence is in his hands. So
he's just,
I don't know.
I think he's been working out. I think that's the moral of the story here.
Well, good for him.
You got to keep your upper body strength going. Work out your core.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out exercise terms I've overheard. I don't know what any of this means. But yeah, okay. All right. Now, it feels like he's just trying to say things to stir up something.
Well, were you aware that he also leaked Matt Smith's departure?
Oh, did he?
Matt Smith's departure was not supposed to be announced on the day it was announced.
Really?
It just leaked. What happened was someone hit the wrong recipient on an email, basically. Someone some internal email was sent between the BBC and its licensees, where the BBC said, well, this is what I keep hearing, and it quote unquote seems to be true. I love talking about rumors. It's fun. But anyhow, that an internal email said something like, we'll be commissioning the next series. It will run in the fall. It'll be 12 episodes, and we'll run them all together because it will really give our new Doctor a chance to establish himself. Sorry if you didn't know about that already. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but we have to get these things. Arranged ahead of time. So that's what it apparently said in the email. And someone just hit I guess someone might have just hit reply all or something, and sent it to everyone in the company, and then various people started to get wind of it, and then it was all over the news by a few hours later, and then the BBC put together a press release.
Huh. Interesting. I had no idea. So, what? The BBC was going to hold on to this even longer than they already had? What the hell?
Well, I don't know how much longer. It could have only been a couple days, but
right.
The BBC was at a disadvantage with regard to that particular news item, much like they leaked the DVDs for the most recent series finale. So it's.
Yeah, the BBC seems kind of leaky as of late.
Which is why they should, if they know who the next Doctor is, they should really get on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's enough for them to hold out on us.
If anyone at the BBC is listening, that is my advice.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that just be great?
I've always been really interested in the nitty-gritty details of the missing episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Like the boring technical stuff, like who was mailed what when. But there's a fantastic book on it, or an allegedly fantastic, but I haven't actually read it yet, called Wiped. And this is a book I keep hearing about how great it is, and so I finally just ordered it yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And it may be out of date by the time it arrives at my door. Yeah.
That would be...
I won't be all that upset.
Yeah, that's kind of the best kind of out of date you can have. If yeah.
And one of the weird things is there are some of these missing episodes are already in varying stages of being animated.
Well, yeah, I remember vaguely talking about that.
So one wonders whether they're going to go ahead with all planned animation releases if it turns out to be true that certain episodes have been returned.
Yeah, that's kind of a sticky situation, because that could put a lot of people out of work for, I mean, not forever. I mean, there's always going to be a need for, animators, but, to some extent, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were happy, or at least several people. I don't know how many animators need to work on an episode, but, I'm sure this was giving some people jobs. And now if the missing episodes have indeed been found, this could put people out of jobs. So maybe that's part of the complexity of this rumor, that they can't go public with it, because they got to get the episodes animated so they can put food on animators' tables.
Yeah, well, not to mention recoup their investment in the animation, because
that too.
Apparently the reason it took them so long to do these animations, I mean, these episodes have been known to be missing since decades ago, but the reason it took them so long to do these animations is because it's kind of expensive to do, and it wasn't thought to be that lucrative, given that the people who buy Doctor Who DVDs are a relatively small niche market.
Right.
So one of the upcoming animated releases is going to be The Ice Warriors. And according to the rumors, the 2 episodes of The Ice Warriors that are missing and would be animated are not included. So that would be fine. But however, another upcoming release is The 10th Planet, in which Part 4, which is the episode in which William Hartnell regenerates into Patrick Troughton, is missing and is being animated. But I believe that is one of the episodes that is rumored to be included.
Huh.
So,
interesting.
Who knows?
Who knows? I didn't realize that. I guess this is just neglect on my part as a Doctor Who fan, but I didn't realize we were missing the actual regeneration from the first into second Doctor. I'm sure that's very widely known by most fans, and I just didn't know that. But that's I did not realize.
Yeah, that. we are not only missing. We're not only missing that, but we're also missing the episodes that follow. So the earliest Patrick Troughton episodes are also missing.
Huh. It's very interesting. That'd be really cool.
It would.
That seems like especially significant to me, because, that was the first time the Doctor regenerated, and that sort of set up this whole premise that the Doctor could regenerate and and that's pretty much solely responsible for why the show has run so long.
Yeah. And also, that story introduced the Cybermen as well. So
there you go.
There is an existing clip of the regeneration itself.
Okay.
So a low quality clip of that does exist.
Well, there you go. Well, that's good. It would be really upsetting if we had nothing.
I think it was used in some documentary at the time or something like that.
That makes sense.
I may be incorrect about that, but for whatever reason that clip was preserved somehow, even though the episode itself was not. Or was it?
I guess when you explain it all about like, oh, it's in somewhere in Africa, there's these things that apparently existed. When you stack on all those explanations, then it seems a little bit more realistic. But it just sounds on its surface, it sounds so unrealistic that, 90 out of 106 episodes have been discovered. That just sounds so unrealistic to me.
Well, one factor of it is that it seems from the information I can glean on the internet that the party responsible for making these claims that, hey, I've got all these missing Doctor Who episodes, has been responsible for the return of 2 episodes of The Sky at Night, which is a documentary series about the sky at night. But yeah, it's a long-running documentary series about like astronomy and stuff. And many episodes from the 60s are missing. So this party does seem to have been responsible for 2 episodes of The Sky at Night that were recently returned. And if that's the case, it certainly does lend some credibility to this person as a source.
That's true. I don't know. This is a rumor that I would very much like to be true.
I'd very much like it to be true also. Even though it will have mean that I watched 90 recons for nothing in my recent attempt to watch all Doctor Who episodes in order.
Yeah, that's right. Will you take it upon yourself to go back and rewatch those episodes?
I think I might give it some time first. I assume that if these episodes are recovered, they will not be immediately released.
Right, yeah.
The 2 episodes that were recovered in 2011 weren't officially released for a long time. I mean, one of them was just released a couple months ago, and one of them still has yet to be officially released. I mean, I may or may not have a copy of it, but it has yet to be officially released.
Yeah, I could see how they might want to take some time with it.
So they might dole them out in some kind of sane, pace. It might take them a few years to get everything, cleaned up and ready for sale on DVD or on however they decide to sell them. So I'll probably just go along with whatever their plan is.
Yeah, it seems like the wise thing to do,
and quite possibly my only choice. I may not have another choice.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah,
that's rumors.
That is rumors. Either way, no matter what, this is interesting.
Okay.
and you know what? As long as it's interesting, I don't really care what happens. Actually, I do care what happens, but at least it was fun to talk about.
Well, yeah. And I mean, here's the thing. No, even if it turns out to be untrue, they're not taking any episodes away. That's
right. That's the moral of the story here.
There's no way we're going to end up with fewer episodes of Doctor Who than we had before. So there's no harm in having some fun talking about it and speculating and being a dreamer.
Yeah. Until the BBC some years from now decides to put a stop to these rumors once and for all and makes a mandate saying anybody who comes up with a rumor for Doctor Who episodes, they will go and destroy every episode for one episode for every episode you say is rumored to be back. And when that happens, then we will lose episodes if these rumors turn out to be false.
Mm-hmm.
I hope such a dystopian future does not happen in our lifetimes.
I hope.
There were some things that I thought of while I was rewatching everything, and one of the things that I thought of was this is a really great final season for Matt Smith, because I think he does a terrific job in the role of the Doctor, and I think that this is a really, really, really good season for him to go out on. Because it was kind of funny that I was watching this with the sort of mentality of, well, this is the last we're seeing of Matt Smith, and it's just, I think it's a really, really strong season for him, not necessarily as a whole, but like as a story, but as him playing the role of the Doctor. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. There wasn't I don't think there was a weak Matt Smith episode in the bunch.
Yeah, no.
I think at the time I said I wasn't that impressed with his performance in Rings of Akatan, but I think I was just upset with the episode itself. And I don't think that was really fair. I think he has given some especially great performances across the board, and this season he just topped himself. I thought The Angels Take Manhattan and The Name of the Doctor, the sort of twin finales, were both real. I think those were both particular standouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's weird comparing 7A and 7B because they seem very different. They kind of seem like they're. I mean, I know that there was a change in companions, and that probably is a large part of it. But it's interesting looking at like these two halves of the season and how they kind of change in tone. Not really tone, but like they just feel different. I don't really know how to describe it, but it almost feels like the 7A was its own season that concluded, and then 7B was its own season that concluded. Although there was like a little bit of blurring because you see the events of The Name of the Doctor influence what happens in Asylum of the Daleks.
Right.
So there's kind of that overarching, connection, but by and large, it almost seems like they are two separate stories that are happening.
Well, which half of the season do you think was stronger?
Ooh, I would probably say 7B.
See, I'd say 7A.
Really?
Yeah. On this rewatch, I especially thought it was much stronger because I felt like even though it was very much, the entire idea behind this season is, standalone movie posters, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But I felt like of the 5 episodes in that half season, 4 of them, with A Town Called Mercy excluded, are all centered on the Doctor's relationship with Amy and Rory, mm-hmm. and like a stage in that relationship, and like whether focused on the question of how they're going to be without him. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that gave that half season a real strong sense of cohesion, even though it was a lot of standalones. Whereas I didn't necessarily feel that way in 7B, where the main through line was the mystery of Clara, which often seemed incidental to what was actually going on.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, because I actually wasn't sure that I liked the conclusion of 7A, because, I do like The Angels Take Manhattan as an episode, but I feel like, I don't know, what I got... I definitely see that theme that you talked about, like how the pawns will survive without the Doctor. I don't know, but I kind of, I don't know, I almost interpreted, or I guess what I was looking at was I was sort of seeing how their means of traveling with the Doctor, where he'll pick them up and drop them off, and how it like, and I was kind of looking at that is that a good thing? Like, is that a good kind of way to go about traveling with the Doctor? And it sort of seemed like it was seesawing between no and yes, and it sort of seemed like it was causing, I don't know if it was causing, but it was implied that it was making the Doctor a little bit darker, and it was maybe not a good thing. And then it seemed like the Power of 3 suggested it was actually a good thing. And then The Angels Take Manhattan it didn't really say it was a bad thing. It just sort of, it ended up with, the companions being separated from the Doctor in a permanent fashion, which is something that has happened in the past. Particularly, I'm thinking of
Rose.
Yeah.
And Donna.
Yeah, well,
Donna, Rose.
Yeah. Rose and Donna. Their finales. It was the episode names that I couldn't think of. But yes, like those two companions. And so that was kind of like a tragic separation, but it wasn't necessarily like because of the way that they were traveling with the Doctor, which is kind of, I don't know, it was kind of what I was like looking for, was like to say like, oh, well, because of the fact that they were traveling with the Doctor in this manner, this is what caused their downfall. But that wasn't really, it just happened to be a bad thing that happened, and that's just kind of what happens when you travel with the Doctor enough. Something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, I do feel like it's definitely true that the first 4 episodes seem to set up a story where they are sort of organically decide to leave the Doctor, mm-hmm. and then at the very end of the Power of 3, they swerve, like they take a hard right and and completely swerve away from that story. And then in The Angels Take Manhattan, they just get separated from him by sheer circumstance.
Right.
Like it just kind of happens.
Like, right.
Without them making all that much of a decision. But on the other hand, Amy does make a decision. The Doctor tells her, no, don't do it. Like, she chooses to go back in time and to sort of step out into, she doesn't even know what's going to happen to her.
That's true.
And then she does it, even though the Doctor keeps telling her that he can't bear for it to happen.
Right.
So from their perspective of leaving, it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, but I think from the Doctor's perspective of sort of separating himself from them, I think there's a little bit more of an arc there that's interesting.
That's true.
And perhaps one of the big reasons I loved season 7A is because rewatching it this time, I just remembered how much I missed Amy and Rory. Like, I really liked them a lot, more than I even thought I did at the time. And I thought that even though, like, the way they were written in Asylum of the Daleks still doesn't make that much sense to me.
Yeah.
But the way they were written in Dinosaurs and a Spaceship and The Power of Three, the 2 Chris Chibnall episodes, I think that's the best they've ever been written.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
I'm wondering whether they're going to cameo in the final Matt Smith episode, much like, you know, how Rose did in the final David Tennant episode.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. On the one hand, it seems kind of soon to bring him back, but on the other hand, you know, it would not feel too terribly out of place. I think that they gotta, or at least like young Amy, you know.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Because I feel like Amy is so central to the 11th Doctor. I don't know why I said the 8th Doctor, but Amy has nothing to do with the 8th Doctor.
That we know.
As far as we know. But yeah, she was just so central to the 11th Doctor that it feels kind of weird to have, you know, he travels with Amy and Rory for 2.5 seasons, and then there's this, you know, half season where there's just a different companion, and that's the end for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems to me almost like it's weird that they didn't all choose to go together.
Yeah. Although, yeah, I mean, that's that would be really, you know, has any Doctor ever had that before, where their entire life has been, or, you know, their entire run has been spent with just one companion? Just
the 9th Doctor, and I guess you could say the 8th Doctor.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about the 9th Doctor. That does make sense. I mean, obviously.
And also, I guess you could say that the 6th Doctor.
Oh yeah.
Has only Perry until the Trial of a Time Lord, which during that story Perry is written out and Mel is sort of written in.
Right. But yeah. I don't know. It just seems. I guess it's funny because I'm just thinking of like the 10th Doctor, where he went through companions like, I don't know. This is like crazy, you know. He had
1 per season.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
If more than 1 per season, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it just seems I don't know. It seems weird for Matt Smith to only have 1 companion, or well, the 11th Doctor to have only 1 companion, or, you know, a pair of companions, the same pair of companions for all of his seasons. But I don't know. I guess it's not that unnatural.
Were there any episodes that you drastically changed your opinion of in this rewatch?
Not really. I mean, I think I liked Journey to the Center of the TARDIS a little less, and I think maybe just a teensy little bit I liked Dinosaurs on a Spaceship more.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But I still, maybe it was just nostalgia. That might have just been nostalgia for all the hatred I had before.
Nostalgia for the hatred you had. Nostalgia for, yeah. Okay.
I wonder if that's a thing for Daleks. Maybe Daleks get nostalgia for all
nostalgic
their
about their old hatred.
I could see that.
Yeah. I think I liked Dinosaurs on a Spaceship even more than I did before.
Oh, really?
The one thing that I still cannot stand about it is the way that it has comedy robots that don't actually have jokes.
You know,
it's not just that they have unfunny jokes, they just say things that just aren't jokes but are phrased as though they should be.
Right. Well, you know, it's funny because on this rewatch of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, I noticed something that I couldn't really figure out, because I think it was suggested that they belonged. There was sort of conflicting information. It seemed like the robots belonged to Solomon, right?
Yeah.
And Solomon probably came there pretty recently, right? Like, I mean, he's a human, right?
Yeah, he's been there for a while, but not like forever.
Right. And so it was interesting because the robots said something about being stuck there for 2 millennia.
Yeah, I actually kind of noticed that too.
And
that doesn't make any sense.
Right, it makes 0 sense, right? Because I'm pretty sure Solomon specifically says where he got the robots.
Yeah.
And I don't think Solomon's 2 millennia old. But if he is 2 millennia old and he's just that bad of a dude, like, you'd expect someone who's lived that long to be like sort of wise and maybe a little bit peaceful. But if he's just like 2 millennia old and he's just that much of a douchebag, I'm actually okay with him dying.
Yeah, it's got to happen eventually. I mean, that would make him allegedly older than the Doctor.
That's true. I don't know. Maybe he was a Time Lord. No, that
probably not.
Although we don't actually see him die, we see his ship blow up. So maybe he just in the vacuum of space he regenerates, and then, maybe he's the master or something.
I think we discussed this before, but I'm kind of curious about how the Great Intelligence finds out about all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. Well, because I was thinking about that. Because actually, one of the things that I was noticing was all the references to the Doctor deleting himself from all the databases and things like that. And it seems like going into the Snowmen, he was a complete non-entity as far as all databases everywhere were concerned. Because in the Asylum of the Daleks, he specifically mentions that he tried hacking into the Daleks. What is it called? The Pathweb, I think he calls it, and he couldn't do it. But Clara ends up deleting him from that database. So technically, his mission was probably complete. Probably everywhere. Maybe the Daleks Pathweb was the last place he couldn't access, and that was the one place where he wanted to get himself deleted from but couldn't, and then Clara did it for him. And so I thought oh well, this is mission accomplished. Everywhere no longer knows who he is, and then suddenly the Great Intelligence knows everything about him. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's tough to say why that would be the case.
Yeah, maybe BBC America accidentally shipped the Great Intelligence his Series 7 DVDs early, and that's how he knew all that.
Yeah, he saw these episodes. And
yes. Yeah, it seemed like there were some recurring themes this season that weren't necessarily present in other seasons. It kind of seemed Matt Smith was being not Matt Smith. The 11th Doctor was being, or just the Doctor, rather. The Doctor was being especially selfish this season.
Yeah, I think that is true overall in both half seasons. I don't know what that amounts to though.
Yeah. I don't know either.
It is interesting. It's kind of hard to tell whether it fits into some kind of character arc that's trying to be portrayed, or whether it's just people just decided, the writers just decided, well, let's make the Doctor more selfish.
Right.
I feel like one thing that they definitely kind of do with the Doctor and have done the whole time is I feel like the Doctor is almost like Pinocchio, where he's trying to be a real boy. I feel like that's always been kind of a part of the 11th Doctor's character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that ties into that though, because he's trying to understand humans. I feel like that's something that that goes back to the first or 0th episode in Series 7, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. That was the main standout thing for me watching that episode, is the Doctor's thing about happy tears and how humid it is, and how he's sort of outside that, but then at the very end of the episode he does cry happy tears.
Yeah,
because he's a real boy.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Huh.
Another thing I noticed as a sort of theme in the season, a lot of ghosts, graveyards, and death and dying.
Huh.
Did you notice that?
I didn't pick up on that.
I mean, I guess there's a lot of death in Doctor Who in general.
Yeah.
But for instance, the Angels Take Manhattan, there's a graveyard. The Snowman has a graveyard. You see the graveyard in the Name of the Doctor. Yeah. It's just graveyards. Lots of
graveyards everywhere.
And Clara kept saying stuff about ghosts. I guess that might have just been a red herring to convince us that she was a ghost when she wasn't. But.
Yeah. Huh. That's very interesting. And that could mean, any number of things. It could be referring to what might happen in the 50th. I don't know what that could mean, but.
Well, I mean, the Name of the Doctor goes to the Doctor's grave,
That's
so it
true.
could have just been foreshadowing for that. I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, that is kind of interesting that the way that they say farewell to the ponds is basically through a graveyard. That sort of symbolism there. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and then he in the Snowman, you would prominently see him standing at Clara's grave.
Yeah.
So it's there's almost like some kind of connection there or something, or I don't know, just a thing. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
What did you think was the best episode of the season?
Oh, don't make me choose.
You gotta choose. We're doing. Want to do worst first?
No, actually, I just thought of my favorite, so let's go with that.
Okay.
I think the absolute best episode was Hyde.
I think I have to go with the Name of the Doctor.
See, I I was thinking Name of the Doctor, but I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Hyde wins just by virtue of the fact that there's very little continuity in it, and I think it functions as a very good standalone episode. I mean, like, there's the thing about him going there just so he can find out about Clara, but overall, I think it's mostly standalone, and for that reason, I think it just a little bit edges out Name of the Doctor, in my opinion.
See, I would Hyde is a little further down the list for me.
Okay.
I think my second. It's not even my second place. My second place is actually, and I get the feeling this isn't a very popular. This isn't an episode that has gotten like a huge amount of critical acclaim, but I love it more every time I see it. A Town Called Mercy.
You know, I do really like that episode, but I just, yeah, all right, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
I think the main problem with that episode is that Amy and Rory aren't in it all that much.
That's true.
So they kind of just don't have anything to do, and they kind of stay around. But overall, I think that is one of that. I think that's a hugely great Doctor Who episode as far as I'm concerned. It's one of my favorites.
No, and I agree. I think that it is a very solid Doctor Who episode. And in fact, when I was writing my notes, as I was going through each episode, I took some notes, and I said it was a good, solid episode. That's literally what I wrote. But that was the only thing I wrote. I didn't have anything else to say about it. But no, I did like it. And it was neat and good, and it sort of reminded us what the Doctor was all about, and it sort of reminded the Doctor what he was all about. And I liked that. I liked that sort of that crisis of identity and that resolution. And so, no, I definitely think A Town Called Mercy is up there. And it's probably, do I want to say it is probably it's probably not my favorite episode of 7A, but it is up there among, I don't know, maybe it is my favorite of 7A. I don't know.
Well, okay, well, I won't make you pick.
Please don't. But overall, I'm going to have to go with Hyde.
Now, what is your least favorite?
Yeah, I think it's still gonna be it's still gonna be Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, even though I did like it a little bit more. I think it is still actually either that or The Power of Three. Maybe Power of Three is my least favorite.
I have like a visceral gut reaction to Power of Three. And I think the thing is, and I think I've said this before, I feel like the first 33 minutes of it, it's on track to be an all-time Doctor Who classic, like one of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. I just think so much of that is just so good, and then the last 7 minutes are just unforgivable. They're just completely inexcusable. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm rating it unfairly because it's the last 7 minutes, and like, mm-hmm. What if I had watched it out of order? Then I would. What if I had like watched it backwards? Then I would come away with an overall favorable impression, wouldn't I? Because the last thing I would have seen would be the good part.
That's right. It works exactly like Memento.
But on the other hand, I guess I actually have to declare it my least favorite episode because nothing makes me as upset as that episode makes me. There's nothing in this season that I just actively just get upset about. I mean, there are episodes that I feel are kind of lame. Like, I think I still don't really like the Rings of Akatan.
Right, yeah.
I don't think The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe is that great.
Yeah.
But I really love the beginning and ending of that, so yeah. I have a fairly high opinion of it because all the awful stuff's in the middle where I can't remember it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. If you consider the worst part of an Oreo to be the filling, then it's like an Oreo. But if the frosting is your favorite part, then the metaphor falls apart. I
don't know. I would say like a reverse Oreo, but they make reverse Oreos, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't. There are episodes that were disappointments this season, I think, but I don't think anything gets under my skin as much as The Power of Three. Yeah.
Well, and on rewatching The Power of Three, I wrote a few notes, and one of the things that I actually liked it less is because, you know, on the first viewing, it seemed like they did an okay job of explaining everything, but I realized on subsequent viewings, or at least on this viewing, they actually did a really terrible job of explaining everything. Right down to, I don't understand what those, like, nurses with the cubes in their mouths were. Like, those things existed prior to the cubes becoming active, so I don't know if some people just tried to eat the cubes and then, like, like, if there was just a scene of somebody trying to eat a cube and then that happening, I'd be completely fine with that. But I don't know how those people came about. Were they at all related to, like, I don't I don't know where those guys fit in. They just functioned as servants for the cubes, and it just seemed weird to me. It was I don't know, these cube faced people just kind of doing things. I don't know.
I may be mildly obsessive because I had to pinpoint the exact moment where everything goes off the rails, and it's this line of dialogue: "We're in orbit, one dimension to the left." I think that is the moment. That is the pivotal moment when you should just turn it off.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
Skip to the next episode. It's not clear why Amy and Rory have decided to travel with a doctor again, but you're better off not knowing.
Yeah. There it is. That's the moment. That is just they should make that an optional feature on the Blu-ray, because I think you can kind of control that. They should come up with a little pop-up saying, "Would you like to skip to the next episode now?" and then just have it cut, and then maybe have a few little cartoon drawings of Amy and Rory getting into the TARDIS and then going off with the Doctor, and then it'll be all the setup you need for Angels Take Manhattan. I like that.
I was thinking of writing my own end to that episode, which ends in a cliffhanger that leads into a part 2. Then just making a better story. So part 2 we can really delve into what these cube mouth people are, and
and I like that idea, and also I think that's a really good idea. You have to wonder if Chris Chibnall would have written it differently had he been given a part 2. But failing that, coming up with your own explanation is just as good, I think. That has the potential to be really, really fun and really, really good.
Yeah, it just really does seem like someone else took over writing the episode at that point. Maybe he was going to write a 2-parter, but then the word came down from on high, no 2-parters this season. He's like, oh, crap. All right, I guess I'll just, come up with something else to end this.
So he just, chugged 6 Red Bulls, and then he wrote the thing overnight.
And then, at some point, when he's over-caffeinated, he's just saying to himself, the tally, the tally must be met.
Yes, exactly. That seems like a caffeine high. That sounds like something that would happen. If we can switch to talking about the Rings of Akaten.
Sure.
Well, there's just one thing I noticed, which I found very interesting. Well, I don't know if it's interesting, or if it's a red herring, or if it's both. Either way, it's interesting, I guess. It could be a red herring, or it could not be. But I think it's strange. First of all, we don't really find out all too much about Clara's mother. We sort of know she died, and we know that she was special to Clara, obviously. I mean, well, first of all, of course, she's her mother, so you'd think that would be special, but on top of that, it seems like there's some special connection we're not fully privy to. But on top of that, on the gravestone, it says that Clara's mother, she died exactly 3 weeks before the events of Rose took place. And I wonder if that is at all related to anything. But it just seems very interesting to me.
Is that 3 weeks before the broadcast date of Rose, or 3 weeks?
Sorry, yes, that was before, when the broadcast happened.
Okay.
I assumed those events were happening in real time. I mean, to the extent that they could.
I don't know about that, but it may be true. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, it seems weird because it was, well, when I first saw, it's funny because when I first saw the date being 2005, I thought about that, and I had to wonder what was going on in the world of Doctor Who when she died, and was her death at all related to something that was happening with the Doctor?
Was she killed by an auton on the street while shopping or something?
Well, right, exactly. Why not? That could very well have happened. But yeah, no. So I just think that's really weird, and I don't know if it was. I mean, obviously, as the show continues and the companions stay approximately the same age, their life events will be happening while the show is airing. Eventually these things are gonna overlap, and I don't know if they were intentionally placing the date just before Doctor Who started back so that they could say, no, this is not, her death was not caused by something that happened that the Doctor was involved with, or maybe, but it's so close, I just don't know. I can't, I don't know. It seems weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It could very well be somewhat significant, because in the early appearances of Amy at the beginning of Series 5, she mentions her mother.
Oh yeah.
But but we know nothing about her mother. And then, I mean, obviously her parents don't turn out to be major characters, but what happened to them does turn out to be rather significant in the overall plot.
Right.
So you'd wonder whether that might be the case with Clara's mother and father, whether there might be more to either or both of them that we just didn't get this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of over having companions be a mystery that the Doctor needs to solve, or just we, the audience, need to solve, I guess. And I don't know, on top of that, it just seems like, especially with Stephen Moffat, I'm looking to every little detail and seeing if there's some hidden meaning that I can glean. So that could just be me doing that.
It could. I don't know.
But yeah.
Why doesn't her father age?
There is that.
It had to be explained to me that was her father that she was standing with,
right?
At the grave, because I was like, what, does she have like a boyfriend or something? Because he looks very young.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's like the Richard of Doctor Who, Richard Alpert of Doctor Who.
Richard Alpert. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't specify which Richard.
Could be any given Richard.
All Richards are immortal.
It's a pretty common thing among Richards. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he could be the master.
He could be. There you go.
She could be the master's daughter.
Then her and Jenny have to duke it out. I don't think they're doing this purposely. I don't think that this is a theme, but I just thought it was interesting. It seems like there's a slightly higher instance of the Doctor, or rather, of the TARDIS landing somewhere by accident in this season than there has been in previous seasons, at least in the Matt Smith era, because it happens in I think 3 different episodes this season. It happens in The Town Called Mercy. They were trying to get, I think, to Mexico. It happened in the Cold War. They were trying to go to Las Vegas. And then it also kind of happened in Crimson Horror. They wanted to go to London. That wasn't, I mean, I think they hit the year correct, so that was close at least. And same island, so that's pretty darn close, but still not exactly where they wanted to go. And I had to wonder what was up with that.
I don't know.
And to confirm that this was actually happening more often than not, I actually had to go through each episode. I only went back as far as season 5, or series 5 rather, and to determine that this was happening more often than normal. And actually, this is not at all related. I mean, I just did this to do this, because apparently I have nothing better to do with my time.
Apparently.
Yeah. Series 6, it only happened once, basically, that they landed by accident.
When?
It was in the God Complex, or I think it was in the God Complex, because it's just I had to infer from dialogue, because Amy was complaining to the Doctor about the place that they wanted to go. He was saying come to whatever, where people are giants and they're
right,
and this and then but the thing was that the Doctor was so enthralled with this sort of building that they were in that he didn't really seem to care. So I'm guessing it was accidental, but he seemed to like where they ended up anyway, so it almost doesn't even count that it was by accident. I mean, it was a happy accident.
Was that really the only one in that season?
I think so. Well, okay, so...
Was the Curse of the Black Spot intentional?
Curse of the Black Spot was a distress call.
Oh, right.
It was... They picked up on the fact that the ship was in distress. Yeah, see, I actually went through and I watched the beginnings of all these episodes to figure out what it was. Impossible Astronaut was by invitation. So I've broken it down into, I think, 4 categories. There's by invitation, there's distress call, there's desired, and then there is... no destination, which is a category I had to come up with when I went to the 11th hour because I couldn't figure out what other category to put it in.
Well, so it was a crash. That was a crash.
Oh, I could call it crash. Although Amy's Choice then would need its own category. Well, kind of, because that also just fit nicely into No Destination because it happened in the TARDIS. But then in the dream world, the TARDIS lands by accident because the Doctor does not mean to go see the ponds, but he does. But I didn't consider that. I wrote next to that doesn't count because it was a dream. Okay, so So the Doctor's wife was invitation. Rebel Flesh Almost People was desired. Good Man Goes to War was desired. Let's Kill Hitler was desired, although it was River who desired it, not the Doctor, but still, they got where they wanted to go. Night Terrors was distress call. Girl Who Waited was desired. God Complex was accident. Closing Time was, I think, desired. I couldn't really tell. I think he went to go see Craig, but it wasn't really explicitly stated. And then Wedding of River Song, I declared a desired just on a technicality that it was... The Doctor basically did desire to go there, so... I mean, the TARDIS wasn't really involved in the travel there. I'm getting really into this, but I don't know. This is just what I did with my free time. We'll just run through Series 5 real quick. Series 5 had it twice, if we don't count Amy's Choice. It had 11th Hour was No Destination or Crash. Beast Below was desired. Victory of the Daleks was invitation. Time of Angels / Flesh and Stone was invitation. Vampires of Venice was desired. Amy's Choice No Destination. Hungry Earth Cold Blood was accident. Vincent and the Doctor was desired. Lodger was accident. Pandorica Opens / Big Bang was invitation. So anyway, there you have it. Series 5 had 2 accidents. Series 6 only had 1. And then Series 7 had 3 accidents. So the accidents are going up.
Okay.
is the long-winded... I'm sorry I had to go through all that, but I put so much effort into this.
I know you haven't seen much 60s Doctor Who, mm-hmm. So do you know that the original concept of the show is that the Doctor has literally no control whatsoever?
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the first the first time the Doctor, using his own TARDIS, intentionally goes somewhere is in season 10, I think.
Wow, really?
Yeah, in seasons 1 through 6, the Doctor has no control over his TARDIS whatsoever. With the minor exception that in the Daleks' master plan, I think it is, he borrows a component from the monk's TARDIS that allows him to steer the ship. But other than that, he has no ability to steer the ship. He just appears wherever the TARDIS happens to take him.
Whoa. I did not realize that. So he really, he really kidnapped
Ian and Barbara.
Yeah, Ian and Barbara.
Yeah,
he really kidnapped them.
Oh,
he
took them with no ability to take them home, and he never returns to contemporary England because he simply can't. And the only way they ever get back there is because they borrowed the Daleks' time ship after they defeat the Daleks, because the Daleks can be steered. And so they send them back in the Daleks. And then after that, once Ian and Barbara are off the TARDIS and everyone who's with the Doctor is traveling by choice, then the writer's like, okay, well, now we can revisit contemporary England whenever we want. So it landed there more often. But in any case, for the first 6 seasons, the Doctor had a TARDIS that he just couldn't steer at all. And then in season 7, the Doctor is exiled to Earth.
All right.
And during seasons 7, 8, and 9, he only ever is able to use his TARDIS in circumstances where the Time Lords have a mission for him. They want him to go somewhere, so he's only ever to go the places they want to send him. And it is only in the 3 Doctors, as a reward for his helping the Time Lords, they fix up his TARDIS and allow him freedom of movement. So
wow, I had no idea. I did not know that at all.
Yeah, it's there was a very long time when I didn't realize it either, because I was only watching episodes at random. And I mean, the Doctor would get out of the ship and he's like, well, where have we landed now? Which isn't that uncommon in New Who, because sometimes the Doctor just doesn't know.
Yeah.
It didn't really occur to me until I was watching all the episodes in order. I was like, wait a second, the Doctor not only isn't ever landing where he expects to, he simply doesn't have any expectation at all as to where he's going to land.
It's really weird. And it's further weird that they didn't seem to explicitly state that, unless they did in the first serial and I just missed it.
I don't remember how explicitly it's stated, but the Doctor can't get them home.
That's
by the time they are friendly enough that the Doctor would take them home if they asked, he just can't.
That's really interesting.
With the exception of the fast return switch, the TARDIS has a fast return switch that simply just takes you back to the last place you were. Why he didn't simply do that in the first place, I don't know. But
yeah, there's that's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm wondering whether
this was.
I mean, with the increase in accidental landings,
right?
I wonder whether they're trying to bring back a little bit of that.
It could be like that. Could be like an homage. I don't know. That's interesting. Or maybe the parts that the Time Lords put in to give the Doctor freedom of choice. Maybe those parts are wearing out. Maybe they were cheap knockoffs or secondary third party parts. Or
yeah,
whatever.
they only lasted about 900 years. One of the things I kind of like that, and one of the reasons I like it is because it allows the Doctor to have companions with whom his relationship is different than, they just travel with him because they want to travel with him.
Right. Yeah.
Because Ian and Barbara wouldn't have been there if they didn't have to be. And even though they became, eventually they got on good terms with the Doctor, they weren't really there by choice.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to have another companion who doesn't really want to be with the Doctor but is kind of stuck with him.
Right.
But there's no real way to justify that in the series' current paradigm of, the Doctor can go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, because it sort of seems like, this was quite a while ago, but it seems like that was almost the case with the Eighth Doctor and Lucy in the first season of radio plays.
Yeah, he had freedom of movement. He could go anywhere except taking her home.
Right. So they'd have to come up with another kind of explanation like that if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
I don't know. Think. That's very neat, and it would sort of give them a chance to have a companion that doesn't just want to be there, and then they could have a whole arc where they get on good terms with the Doctor. They hate him at first, but then they kind of grow to like him. They become pals.
Yeah, just a bit more, a bit more variety than
right. Yeah,
than what kind of currently happens. Although there are any number of ways they could choose to bring more variety. Yeah. But anyhow, thank you for doing that statistical analysis. I don't know if anyone else would have.
Well, I don't know. It's funny because it just was fascinating to me. So I did it out of my own intense curiosity. But yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting to me. But yeah, so there you have it.
Where do you think this season ranks overall in terms of New Who seasons?
Ooh. I hadn't thought of comparing it. I'd thought to compare it with all of Matt Smith, but I hadn't thought to compare it with all of New Who. And I don't know. I did really like this season overall. Certainly, I think it was one of the best finales. I think it was even better than The Big Bang, which was a very good finale. Mm-hmm. Or rather, Pandora Opens / Big Bang, because it was a two-parter, which is something we haven't gotten in a while for finales. I don't know. I think I do have to say I think I have to award this season best finale ever.
I think I would give it the best finale of New Who. I think I would say that.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the best season. Well, it might even be the best season. I don't know.
See, I definitely don't think it's the best season. I think okay. I would rank it of the 7 seasons. Mm-hmm. I think I would probably rank it even not even in the top half.
Really?
Because I think I probably liked season 5 more than I like this. I think I liked season 3 more than I like this. I might even have liked season 6 more than I like this.
It's funny because I think we ranked season 6 above season 5, although I feel like with time I actually kind of like series 5 a little bit more than 6.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I've flip-flopped on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think personally the top of the heap for me is actually series 3.
Really?
Yeah. I think the reason for that is partially it's because that's the first series I was watching as it aired.
Uh-huh.
But also I feel like the run of episodes from Human Nature through the end of the series, so Human Nature, Family of Blood, Blink, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, I think that's like the strongest consecutive run of like a half season that's ever been.
It might just, and it's funny because the first series I watched as it was airing was series 4, and I would probably rank that as one of my favorites. So I don't know if it's just because it was the first one I actually watched live, or if it's because I'm actually thinking of it as a good thing. Because series 4, I think Donna might be my favorite companion of New Who. I
would probably say that as well.
Yeah, so I think it's got that going for it, and also I liked the introduction of River Song in that. I thought that was back when River Song was still a mystery, and that was, I don't know, I kind of have nostalgia for those days. The thing that I don't like about sort of series 1 through 4 is how very prevalent the Daleks were, and how they always seem to be, with series 3 being the exception, they were always somehow involved in the finale, being the bad guys that the Doctor had to defeat. And it did get really tiresome having them come back and only to be defeated once again forever for reals this time, and then they'd be back next season in some different capacity. And so in that sense, I kind of liked how they were treated in Series 7, where they were in the opening episode, and then we don't really hear from them at all again. And it's kind of just assumed that they're kind of out there doing their thing. They're not really directly in conflict with the Doctor, though, and so the Doctor's not really actively seeking to destroy them or anything. Like, I have to wonder if Asylum of the Daleks had been in Series 1 through 4, if it would have ended with the Doctor blowing up all of the other Daleks, like turning their whatever missiles back on them and destroying everything. Which would have been really tiresome.
I think that's what Russell T Davies kept doing with not just the Daleks, but also the Cybermen and the Master.
Oh, yeah.
He did not take a toy out of the box without putting it away at the end of the episode. Gallifrey, too. I mean, He brought back Gallifrey just to get rid of it. And I did kind of get tired of that. And I did kind of get tired... I don't know actually whether I got tired of it, because the whole structure of his series finales was a progression of they're back, because you bring back the Doctor, then you bring back the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, Davros, the Time Lords. But whereas Moffat hasn't done a season finale, or a series finale rather, that has centered on the return,
right?
Unless you count The Angels Take Manhattan as a finale,
right? Yeah,
he's done things a little differently, and while I guess I like that, I think I still kind of rank the Russell T Davies era a little bit above the Stephen Moffat era.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I don't know. Like if I had to pick like best season of New Who, I don't know which one it would be, like flat out. And where are we throwing the specials, or are we just kind of ignoring them?
I usually consider the specials as part of Series 4.
Oh, that might bring it down. I don't know. No, actually it doesn't.
Planet of the Dead.
Wow.
Planet of the Dead, I believe, is not available on Netflix.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that all of New Who is on Netflix except for 2 episodes. Planet of the Dead, which I don't mind.
Right.
And, tragically, A Christmas Carol.
What?
I believe that A Christmas Carol, the Christmas special between Series 5 and Series 6, is just not on Netflix at all.
What?
Which is horrible, because I think that is probably my favorite Christmas special.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have said that The Snowmen surpassed it in their estimations, but I think that's still the top of the heap for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I was among the people who said The Snowman was better, and I'm not sure I stand by that anymore. But because I would say if The Snowman is better than A Christmas Carol, in my mind, it's only slightly better, because A Christmas Carol is just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think it's only slightly below.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So they're both very good, but I think A Christmas Carol is just it kind of breaks my heart to think that there are Doctor Who fans out there who are discovering the show through Netflix, and I mean, it's fine with me that they're missing Planet of the Dead. I guess they're not getting the origin of the "he will knock 4 times" thing.
That's true.
Which I mean, whatever. But it kind of like you. A Christmas Carol is very standalone. It doesn't affect anything else. Mm-hmm. So you can easily skip right from the Big Bang to the Impossible Astronaut and not even realize you missed anything, because Netflix just isn't telling you. It's just not listed.
That's terrible. Like I want to actually mail my DVD to these people, like just so they can watch it. That's terrible. This is just terrible.
It used to be that the specials were listed separately as though they were movies.
Oh.
And you would watch the season, and then the season, like for instance, if you were just watching what Netflix considered season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you wouldn't even see the regeneration of David Tennant into Matt Smith. But I think they lumped them all together now, but they're still just missing some things.
But why Planet of the Dead specifically?
It could just be that the rights weren't packaged in with the rest of the season, so they had to order those things individually, and they just decided not to order that particular one.
Maybe the person in charge of ordering was in fact a Doctor Who fan who did not like that episode.
Probably.
And rightly so, some would say.
Why is the first result for Doctor Who Christmas Carol House of Cards?
I guess Netflix is just really pushing House of Cards.
It's pretty good.
I've wanted to watch it, but I do not have Netflix, as people are often surprised to discover, because I guess I seem like a person who would have Netflix.
You do. Yeah, Season 5 has The 11th Hour through the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Season 6 just starts with The Impossible Astronaut, And ends with the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, which is just wrong. That's part of season 7. Or series 7, rather. It's not even season, it's series.
Well, I wonder if that's the problem. If they are lumping in 14 episodes, or 14 episodes, and they just happen to tack on the wrong end of it. Because it is the Christmas special is always supposed to be the first episode of the next season,
with the exception of the Next Doctor and the End of Time.
Yes,
which are just tacked on to the end of series 4.
Yes, so they've got their own little box. But yeah, no, every other season has done that.
If there's anyone listening to this who got into Doctor Who through Netflix and just never saw A Christmas Carol with Michael Gambon of the Harry Potter movies, track that down and watch it.
Yeah,
it's I love it.
This is a PSA.
Yes,
but yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I've literally numerically ranked Series 7. I don't think I'm going to either.
Right.
I think it's gotten to the point where there are 7 seasons of New Who. There's just going to be more and more. Numerically ranking them doesn't really work anymore that well.
No, I should think not.
But I thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the movie poster thingy is just this season, and they get back to something that's a little bit more like it was before.
Right.
Just fix it, turn it back, change it back. No,
yeah. For what this season was, for trying that gimmick, I guess, I think it worked out pretty well. It worked out, pretty well, I guess. There were casualties along the way. I think, once again, the Power of Three could have been a lot better. Not to get into.
I think A Nightmare in Silver also.
Yeah, definitely
better as a 2-parter.
Yeah. Getting back to the way the show used to be, I don't want to start sounding like
Doctor Who should be exactly the way it was when I started watching it, and should never change.
Right, exactly. I don't want to be that. I really don't want to be that. But on some level, I do want that. I do want them to go back to 13 episodes every week, and then a Christmas special months later. That's what I want. But
I wouldn't mind 22-minute episodes. Do 26 a year.
Yeah.
And 4-part serials. I wouldn't mind that either.
Me neither, actually. I think that would be really cool. And they seem to be doing so much trying to make or trying to bring back or maybe just stir up nostalgia for classic series and sort of slipping in references and stuff. Maybe they should just revert the format back to the way it was in the classic series. It's funny because I have gotten used to watching it in that style, because at first it was very bizarre to me watching the classic series that way. But yeah, no, I'm completely down with that structure. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I would fault Series 7 for being so different, and not really fitting in with the rest of the series is, and so in that sense, I think that if I were to recommend a series of Doctor Who to somebody to watch, it's like, oh, you just got to watch this show. I don't know, it would I almost feel like I would go with Series 5. I don't know if that's my favorite series, but I think it's a good solid series of New Who. I don't know.
Yeah, it has a really good starting point where you're introduced to a new Doctor and a new companion, and it doesn't really require any prior knowledge. And I don't know, it takes you kind of on the ride, and gives you, there are some ups, there are some downs, there's some standout episodes in that series. So yeah, I would probably say the same.
Yeah, but yeah, to the extent but I really can't hammer down what my favorite series is of New Who. It'd probably either be Series 4 or Series 5 or probably just one of those two. I do see where you're coming from with Series 3 though. I do think that was a very good one. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, specifically I just thought the home stretch of that series from the 2-parter set in World War I time was, everything from there on out was great. And even though some people hate Last of the Time Lords because of Jesus imagery, but I still like it.
Yeah, a little sprinkling of Jesus imagery every now and again. It's fine as long as you supplement that with a lot of vitamin C.
Exactly.
It's funny because it's been so very long since I've watched Series 1, and I feel like I am undervaluing it because I feel like it was probably a lot better than I remember.
I think there are some real problems in early Series 1.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think specifically Rose, Aliens of London, and World War III.
Oh, yeah.
Were all directed. The three of those were directed by Keith Boak, who is the worst director on the new series of Doctor Who. And he just sucks any tension or excitement out of whatever he's directing. so it's just not. It's just not. But I love Dalek. I love Father's Day. I love The Empty Child. I love The Doctor Dances. I even like Boomtown, which a lot of people don't like. It's actually been a while since I've rewatched it as well. So I eventually I'll get there, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I should rewatch The Ninth Doctor just because it's been so very long. And I think the last time I watched The Ninth Doctor, he was probably the second Doctor I was exposed to. Like I watched David Tennant for a few episodes, or I don't know. I was watching reruns at that point. So I think The Ninth Doctor I have not rewatched since I watched some of David Tennant. Then I probably watched most of David Tennant. Then I watched Ninth Doctor. Then I watched other Doctors, and I haven't gone back to the Ninth Doctor since. Like, I've gone back to other classic Doctors. Like, I think the first classic Doctor I watched was the Fourth Doctor, and of course I've as we've discussed on the podcast, we've gone back to the Fourth Doctor on several occasions. So I've seen the Fourth Doctor kind of woven throughout my watching of Doctor Who, but there's this sort of chunk of my viewership of Doctor Who that remains in the past, which is the Ninth Doctor, and I have not revisited him since. So I have to wonder what my take on him would be now that I've seen other Doctors, and I've seen 10 regenerate into 11, and I still have not gone back to see 9 again, and I wonder what that would do to my appreciation of Series 1.
It could be completely different because I haven't been a fan for that much longer than you. Mm-hmm. I became a fan in early 2007. Mm-hmm. And I've recently had occasion to rewatch some stuff that I watched in the first year or so I was a fan. And my opinion of a lot of it is just completely different. Huh. Largely because with the classic series, it's a little bit of an acquired taste for the modern viewer in our sort of generation.
Right.
That grew up on, the kind of shows that we had that had much slicker production values and everything. But now that I have much more of a hang of how classic Doctor Who works, I have a different appreciation for those episodes. And the same is true, I think, of the Ninth Doctor, because even with the Ninth Doctor, the production values on season 1 are not that great. Huh. To be perfectly honest, the Ninth Doctor, to me, looks closer to Sylvester McCoy than it does to Matt Smith.
Huh.
In terms of production values.
Huh. That would have never even occurred to me to think, but yeah, I bet it does.
That's probably not literally true.
Well, yeah.
Because there's like CG and stuff like that.
Well, of course. Yeah.
But just like the filming of it just looks so like videotapey. Anyhow.
It's interesting.
So yeah, I even when I rewatched that, a couple years after my first viewing, I liked a lot of it more. So I'm sure you would think differently about it if you were to see it again.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost my duty as a Doctor Who fan to go back and rewatch the Ninth Doctor, because I feel like I'm not doing him a justice.
I don't know. I thought Series 7 not bad overall. Pretty good.
Yeah,
spread over 2 years, which was not. Probably not the way I would have preferred to consume it. But.
Yeah. If anything, I really hope they go back to the way things used to be.
Well, if that leaked email is true, it seems that they're doing 12 episodes consecutively.
Yeah, and that would be very nice. Although I'm not looking forward to waiting until fall 2014. But I guess it can't be helped.
I guess not.
It would be a little unreasonable, I think, if they haven't even cast the 12th Doctor to suddenly whip up, 13 new episodes by the spring of next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess as a fan, I'm allowed to have unreasonable requests.
Oh, certainly. In fact, I think you're required.
But yeah. So okay, overall, Series 7, I liked it. And I liked the introduction of Clara. I mean, in some sense, it would have been nice to keep the pawns around until Matt Smith left. But I don't know. I mean, I do like Clara. I think she's a pretty good companion. I'd like to see what happens to her now that her mystery is quote unquote solved.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. What's left for that character, if indeed it is really true that she is returning for Series 8?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it'd be really weird if she was just in this sort of half season, then that's all she got.
Yeah.
That would be very odd, but I don't know. That would make it even more conspicuous for the pawns leaving. Like, why couldn't they just hang around for those 6 episodes that were taken up by Clara?
Yeah, and it would be a shame because, to be perfectly honest, I think that was one of my main complaints about this season, that I don't feel like they used Jenna Louise Coleman to the most of her abilities.
Yeah.
Like, rewatching Asylum of the Daleks and The Snowman, she was really, really great in both of those.
Right.
With 2 completely different characters, and watching them so close together, it was very much highlighted how different those characters are from Clara we eventually got to know to some extent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know. So hopefully she'll stick around and her dynamic with the 12th Doctor will be interesting. Or maybe she'll become the next Adric.
Or the next Doctor.
Yes. Perfect.